everyone, and welcome to this edition of Writer's Infusion. I'm your host, Susan. I am here with Dave, Jen, Julie, and Ed, and we are here to critique an excerpt from a fantasy novel submitted from someone from Texas. And I'm going to read today. So I'll start with the summary. And keep in mind that this excerpt is from the middle of the story. Thea is capable of creating another world with a stroke of her paintbrush. Having only discovered this hidden talent, she is pulled into the world to help save their queen. At the same time, she is dealing with her parents' divorce in her first year of college life. Thea sat down on the couch as Deacon pulled the door closed behind him, leaving her all alone. She let her eyes wander around the room from the gilded wainscoting to the intricately sculpted frames holding the most brilliant painting she had ever set eyes on. The exhaustion filling her body suddenly dimmed in the light of the room she was expected to sleep in. The glorious artwork decorating the walls around her made her own seem like the scrawling of a first grader. She heard raised voices speaking in a strange language outside her room. Thea turned toward the sound, her attention finally taken off of the magnificence of the room. Padding quietly across the plush carpeting, she crept as close to the wall as possible. The words she heard were unrecognizable to her. Just as she was about to give up on figuring out what they were saying, a third voice joined the conversation in English. The deep baritone of an older-sounding man growled at the first two voices. "She can likely hear you, you know. If you must discuss this, do so elsewhere." The first voice, a feminine tone, responded in English. "I don't care if she hears. She shouldn't be here. Queen Melanie is foolish letting her stay, especially here." "If she must be here, she should be detained in more secure quarters," the second voice seethed. Thea heard footsteps fading away and the voices ceased. She backed away from the wall, frowning. Running a hand through her hair, she lowered herself onto the thick down mattress of the four-poster and stared at the floor. It was all just too much. A loud knock on the door brought her eyes up. Before she could utter a word, the door inched open and a man with salt and pepper hair and beard to match stuck his head through the crack. "May I come in?" he asked. Thea stood again and smoothed out her shirt. "Of course," she said. Shifting her weight between her feet, she watched him carefully. "I just wanted to introduce myself. I will be with you tomorrow when you meet again with Queen Melanie." He walked into the room, leaving the door open, making her feel somewhat safer. She nodded, not sure what to say. "I am Reuben. I am a greeter," he said. Raising his hand as he approached her, he waited for her to extend her own, which she did promptly. Her hand, of average size, felt minuscule in his large grasp. He turned it and raised it toward his face. She thought he was going to kiss it like an old-fashioned gentleman until he turned it palm up and looked at her wrist. A band of small red circles connected by stars was clearly visible on her wrist. She jerked her hand back and looked at it closely. "What the hell?" she breathed. "That's never been there before." "Like I said, I am a greeter." He offered a grin that hid more secrets than it revealed. An old one at that. "What is a greeter exactly?" Thea asked pointedly. "I meet all new egress when they first arrive. I ensure that they are legitimate." "Get a lot of illegitimate folks stumbling into paintings?" Thea asked. "Not very often," Reuben laughed. A booming noise that echoed around the room. The sound put her at ease as she ran a finger over the new markings on her wrist. They wouldn't be difficult to cover with a little concealer. She wondered how many people back home were hiding the same type of markings. "Not a lot," Reuben said, as if reading her thoughts. "It runs in the family, right?" "Yes, but there are a few families now who carry the same bloodline. Not many, but a few," he explained. "Will I meet the others?" she asked. "Well, you have already met one, of course. Even I don't meet all. I am only one of a handful of greeters, and like I said, I'm getting quite old, so these days I only meet those who are of some importance." "So what does this mark mean exactly?" she asked, as she ran her finger over it once more. "Believe it or not, that is your direct line's markings, proving that you are a direct descendant and you are the real deal," he told her. Thea sat down on the edge of the bed, again, her eyes not leaving her wrist. She looked up to watch Reuben cross the room to the massive fireplace and stir up the smoldering coals within until they caught and became a roaring fire. She absent-mindedly stroked the markings on her wrist as she watched him. She felt so far from home, and she wondered how she would ever get back. Her lips parted to let a yawn escape. It should stay warm in here throughout the night now. I will let you rest. There is a lot more to be discovered in the morning. Reuben let himself out and closed the door with a click. Thea stripped out of her clothing. She longed for a bath, as the trip to Chromia had not been kind to her body, but she didn't see a tub. Walking around the room, she opened a door in the wall next to the fireplace. Inside was a large walk-in closet, not quite as large as her own back home, however. Closing it, she continued around the room to a door on the other side of the bed. It was a bathroom, decorated just as elaborately as the bedroom. A clawfoot tub sat straight ahead of her. She crossed the marble floor to it and turned the golden knobs until a warm stream flowed into the tub. Thea stepped out of the rest of her clothing and noticed a nightgown draped across the back of a chair in front of a brightly lit vanity. She wondered if it would fit her, if somehow they had been one step ahead of her the entire night. The tub filled as she picked up the brush from the vanity and brushed out her long hair. At last, tub full, she lowered herself into the bath and let the warmth of the water wash over her worn limbs. A few minutes later, she picked up a piece of dirt that had dried onto her arm. Splashing water over it, the dirt dissolved and slid down into the water. Thea finished washing and climbed out, wrapping a plush plum towel around her. She picked up the long white gown and tried sliding it over her head. It slid onto her body, a perfect fit. Her hair lay in clumps against the material, soaking it. She picked up the comb from the vanity and ran it through her hair before walking back out to the bed and sliding between the warm, welcoming sheets. The morning greeted her like a fist to the side of her head. Brilliant white light shone in through a large window she had not noticed the night before. Had the curtains always been open? She sat up and rubbed at her eyes, a yawn transforming into a full body stretch. Her stomach clenched as she looked back toward the open window. There was a rainbow of colors dancing in the light as if the window were a prism. Thea pushed herself to her feet and crossed to stand in front of the window. She peered outside over what appeared to be a modern city of skyscrapers and walk-ups melded with an ancient city of shacks and Gothic castles. None of it made sense. It was a hodgepodge of time and space. Nothing made sense. She watched a bank of clouds roll up and encompass the castle below her. A thunderous knock pulled her quickly from her thoughts. "Yeah," she called toward the door. "Yeah, I'm coming." Thea hurried across to the door and pulled it open. Reuben pushed inside the room, surveying every detail in silence. "What's going on?" she asked. "The Queen received a message this morning," he said, turning toward her. "Did you have anything to do with it?" "What message?" Thea asked, confused. "Doesn't matter," he brushed off the question. "Did you have anything to do with it?" How could I have had any involvement with a message that I don't even know about?" she asked, beginning to feel somewhat offended at his tone. "If you had nothing to do with it, then you could be in danger too," he told her. He grabbed her elbow and directed her toward the door. "Come on, we need to get you to the Queen, quickly." A panic began to spread through Thea and cloud her mind. She almost let him guide her out in just the thin nightgown, but as she reached the threshold of the room, she glanced down and pulled back. Okay, I just read all that, so maybe someone else should stop.
Okay. I like the premise. I really like the premise. I'm intrigued by her abilities. I want to know what she can do. And I'm wondering if, and maybe you do this elsewhere, because it's the middle.
Right.
Describe her gift. I'd like to see her touch a paintbrush to canvas and see what happens. Does she do it elsewhere in the story? And describe her work in contrast to what you mentioned in paragraph 1, because you say her work in comparison is like scrawling a first grader. But I can't assume, but I want to assume that she's a talented artist in her own right. She now entered a painting. I'm wondering where and when we are and who summoned her, and why does the Queen need her?
I know some of that we just won't know.
We won't know that. I'm
because
curious,
we can't.
absolutely. I'm
Right.
curious about that. But my question about where and when is it related to her saying yeah at the door. I think she should be more proper. Her not covering herself. This man has knocked at the door. I think you should knock, wait, ask may I come in before he peeks through the crack. It should be proper, but she welcomes him into the room and then realizes she has a thin nightgown on. So maybe she would cover herself up for modesty. Maybe she isn't the one who draws the bath. Maybe there's a maid servant who draws the bath. I'm thinking it's a.
I thought that whole.
I don't know.
The whole
Is someone
thing,
tended to her? Go ahead.
that whole scene with the bath, I thought it was way too long.
Oh yeah.
First of all, I marked it up, but even the little thing where he had already come into the room once, and then she's about to take a bath. She strips down and then starts walking around the room. Well, first of all, I thought she was naked, and it turns out she was finishing. But if you think anyone could come in at any moment, why would you ever take your clothes off
Yes.
until you've shut a door and no one could come in? That would be one of my biggest concerns.
Yeah, wouldn't you find the bath first?
Yes.
Yes,
and then
yes,
take your
yes.
I
clothes
mean,
off?
even at home, half the time you might do that. So it's not like you, okay, we won't go there.
I have to say, I thought this was really well described. I get a real sense of the place itself.
Yes.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that. I was curious if, I mean, we can't tell from what we have, but I'm curious if she is from our own world.
Yes.
I wrote
And
that down,
if
too.
so, does she compare this place that she finds herself in with other imaginary places like Oz or
Oh.
Wonder? I mean, you know, if you're from this world, you've read stories, you know, if you see, oh, I'm in a castle, I wonder if it's like the witch's castle, or I wonder if I'm, you know, in Lord of the Rings or something like
Right.
that. To have that kind of consciousness to bring that to. I'm just curious.
Didn't she paint the picture that she entered?
Oh, I don't know.
That's what I don't know. We know she went through
Oh.
it. You may be
So
right.
we would know, or she would know where she was headed voluntarily.
Yeah,
Ah.
I think-
you'd think.
I think, we don't know, again, this is the middle.
Could be a
Right.
world she created in a picture.
Yeah,
Yes.
I liked the whole thing. There were some weaknesses. But as you're reading the story, it sounds as though she's on a vacation. There's nothing really going on except very specific, subtle, implied threats all the way through. There's something happening here. Was that window open? What does the queen want? There are things that are going on here that say, uh-oh, things aren't, this isn't a Holiday Inn.
But she's not very nervous.
Well, we are though.
Yes, we are.
Okay,
Yes,
and that's
yes.
fine.
Well, maybe she should be. That was one of the
Right,
things that I
yes.
marked. On page 3, it says, she felt so far from home and she wondered how she would ever get back. Her lips parted to let a yawn escape.
Yes, I wrote.
She's so
really?
upset that
A
she
yawn?
yawns.
Yes.
You know, is that, you know, is she worried about this or?
That's the tough part about coming into the middle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, but
Right.
I think too that if these things trigger a little bit in us, then we should be seeing some kind of reaction in her.
Hmm.
She's
Well,
in a
maybe
strange place.
we should worry about her.
Yeah.
If she's not worried, I mean, a little child in the middle of a busy street, they're not nervous, but we are.
Yes.
That's true.
Yes.
You know, you've allowed,
On her behalf.
That's a
on
good
her
point.
behalf, we're worried about her
Yeah.
safety. Why aren't you
Right.
doing X, Y, Z to
Yeah.
protect yourself?
Yeah. Lock the door.
Yes,
No.
yeah.
Oh my
Put-
goodness, yeah.
Put something on,
deadbolts,
grab a
yes,
blanket or
yes.
something.
I have, there were two things. One is, I did get a good sense of setting, as Ed just said. So I had, even though it was in the middle, I was right there with what was going on. I did make a lot of grammatical changes and wording and phrases. I marked this one up a lot, and so I don't, I'm not gonna go through all of those, but a couple of things I'll point out. So why did she wanna hide the markings? You know, I don't know if that's something we should know
Oh,
now or
you know,
not.
when she goes back to
Right,
her
why does she
world.
have to hide them? And then when he laughs, why does that put her at ease? Does it remind her of someone at home?
Mhm.
So little things like that. What else? I'm just trying to,
I put a lot of commas in.
lots of, well, you could tell like when I was
Yes,
reading
yes,
it messed
I was-
up because
no more
there
commas,
were no
yes.
commas. And
Right.
you can see that when you read something out loud. I was trying to read it properly,
Right.
but I couldn't because I wasn't always,
Yeah.
there was no comma.
May I interject and then please get back to grammar about the markings? He takes her hand, puts the markings on. She's stunned. What the hell was that? I think she asked. But then on page 3 down the bottom, she absent-mindedly stroked the markings on her wrist as she watched. So I'm thinking, not obsessively? She's not obsessing over this? Can I rub it out? Why
Right,
is this
right.
here? How
Well,
did he do that? She's absent-minded. I thought it was odd for her to shift so quickly.
Well, then even little things like that, she's looking down at the markings, but she can see everything that he's doing in the room at the same time.
Well,
And there are a
that's
lot of
talent.
little details
Yes.
like that that I missed.
Yes.
Mhm.
On a technical, from a technical perspective, actually Sue wrote a blog on our website about words that you want to remove from a manuscript. So there are a few of them in here, so you might want to read that blog. So for example, she heard raised voices speaking in a strange language. Just get rid of the she heard. Raised voices spoke in a strange language outside of her room. Another one, she let her eyes wander. Just her eyes wandered. On the last page, she watched a bank of clouds roll up and encompass the castle. No, a bank of clouds rolled up and encompass the castle. So I think there's a lot of, you don't need the she watched, she saw, she heard, she felt. You don't need any of that. So I would definitely take a look at Sue's blog because she does go through some of those examples.
With that in mind, I did wrap it up. So,
Yeah.
so
Go through the other side. So I found a few of them,
I
so
did.
yeah.
And something else that I noticed actually, not just here, this is something I noticed that I think is very common, and I even do it in my own writing. A lot of the writing here is proper. So he says, like I said, I am a greeter. And he's not using contractions there, but then in other places, he does. So if someone does use contractions and you don't want it to sound formal, then go back afterwards and change your words to contractions.
Right.
And I find that I have to do that in my own writing. Maybe not so much now, but I used to.
And I thought it should be as I said, not like I said.
Oh,
Ah.
Yeah, what you
right,
said.
that's true, yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to know, you said, to see if you're a descendant of who?
Yes.
A descendant
I didn't
of what?
understand any of
And
that.
maybe that was
Right.
explained earlier, so
Right.
if it is, then, you feel free to ignore that.
The whole thing with the family, I wanted to understand
Yeah,
that a little
and I
more.
agree with you, the whole bath scene went on way too long, so, she picked up the brush from the vanity. If brushing her hair isn't significant and doesn't play into the story later on, get rid of it. Her removing the piece of dirt from her arm, if that piece of dirt is significant, cool. If it's
Right.
not, get rid of it, it just bogs it
Traveling
down.
through the painting, she picked up dirt, she went through mud, if there's reason.
Yeah, unless there's a reason,
Right.
unless it
Significant.
plays in
Yes.
later, right,
And they
if
can
it
bring
plays
that
in
in,
later,
though,
then that's
right.
totally cool.
Or she
you
can
know?
bring it up like you said, and if she
Yeah.
can say, I wonder if this came off the painting.
Yeah, and then later she
That's-
combed her hair, in the same paragraph,
Yes,
so it's
Yeah,
like,
it was too much.
Yes.
yeah, just,
I miss- Blew right by me.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, it blew right by me, I didn't see it.
Brush right by you.
Brush right.
And there's a lot of repeating too, I mean, even near the end, when she gets up and she's looking out the window at the Gothic and the modern.
Well, that was odd too. The
Well,
different structures.
I felt like it was
I like
just, no, I liked.
Yeah, I was curious.
I liked it,
Was
but
it
I
fun?
felt like there was a lot of a lot of jiltedness.
Mhm.
Is that a word?
I like it. Let's
About
point
it.
that
So
was
I-
Jiltedness.
Jilted, it doesn't
First
sound right.
All
reference.
right, I'm sorry.
Suzal.
But and so I rewrote it to make it sound simpler. So instead of Thea pushed herself to her feet and crossed to stand in front of the window, she peered outside over what, I just kind of tightened it up.
you don't need the play-by-play like that.
Right, I just said Thea peered outside, a modern city of skyscrapers and walk-ups blended with an ancient city of shacks and Gothic castles. It was a hodgepodge of time and space. Transfixed, Thea remained until a bank of clouds rolled in, encompassing the castle below her. So I just tried to tighten it
I
up.
like that. I like
How
that.
that was that? And then right before that, here's another point I wanted to make. When she wakes up, and this might be what Dave was saying, that maybe she shouldn't be worried, but we're worried for her. But if she is noticing that the windows are, she never noticed the window, and now it might be a thing that someone came in while she was
Right.
sleeping.
Exactly.
Make a little
Yeah.
bit, that's something she was worried about, so make a little bit more of a big deal about it, or have.
But if we, again, I go back. I
But
say,
she's
look,
wondering about it.
Yes.
She makes a comment.
if you understand it, then why do you have to reinforce it here?
Well, because sometimes I think she's adult, like, can she not get that there's a problem?
But
There's a point
if
where
it-
you want to think for her, and there's a point where, well, now she's noticing him, but not, I don't know.
Why does she, I disagree. If we notice it and she notices it, the author doesn't have to re-emphasize it because the point has already been made.
I guess so.
No, don't agree with me because
I
I'm
wrote it.
browbeating you.
And can we take out like a fist to the side of the head?
Yes,
Yeah.
I like that. I said
Okay,
choose
that
one.
doesn't fit in with sleeping.
I like the bright light coming in. I choose.
Yeah,
I think it's just, it's severe, is
Yes,
what
yeah,
she's
yeah.
trying to get across.
I like the
With
drifty sense that you get all the way through it.
Yeah, it's very,
Yeah.
it's
There's
in
There's,
Wonderland.
yeah,
right?
I wrote that
Yes,
down.
it is.
It feels like, yeah, but
I
there's a
like that.
drifting here, and drifting there.
You're
That's why I
right.
said, there's too much going on that's dangerous for her to be on vacation like this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because everything that she's doing and seeing is Holiday Inn.
It's all too perfect.
Yes.
But there are threats all the way through. The window that comes open.
Eyes at sea.
Yeah, the other thing that the guy said, he says, there's much to be discovered.
Yes. He did
That,
say that.
he said that, I forget where it is,
I know.
but he said, there's much to be, and I said, it's not fair to just throw that out, you know? And she has to react to something like that. What? I'll tell you in the morning. You don't open the door, don't let us see what the threat is. Allow us to be nervous and let her be nervous. But there's all kinds of stuff in here. I love the way, there were little gems in here that, oh, wait, there's another slide that, oh, wow.
I like that
All
thing
the way
with the
through.
flicking that, now that, because you brought that up
Yeah.
about how she flicked off the,
Gently. Dirt, like
oh,
that.
the dirt.
Yes.
So then maybe it wasn't dirt, maybe it was paint from.
Yeah, I was
the paint.
wondering what that was.
Yeah,
It
I
seemed
understand.
out of place.
That
If it's,
Kinda
if it's
cool.
significant, then keep it, but if
That
it
would be
wasn't
cool.
significant, then get rid of
Yes.
it.
Right.
What beat her up? She was sore. She needed a bath because she was
Yeah,
sore.
dirty
Oh,
and
the
sweaty.
travel.
Now, that may
Yeah.
have been in a previous chapter or
Yes.
something.
Sure.
But
I'd like to see that. Well, may I point out, on the bottom of page 3, all the way through page 4, you have a huge paragraph.
Yeah.
Please break up that paragraph.
Maybe it is
Yes.
significant, and
Right.
in which case you keep it.
Yes.
But like,
Make
I don't
a note
think
of
she has to
that.
brush her hair in the vanity and then comb her hair in the
No,
vanity
no,
after.
absolutely
Like the
not.
play-by-play just slows things
Do you know what else?
down.
Ruben said you're going to meet with the Queen again. So she
Yeah.
has met, she is
Oh, really?
familiar with this. I was thinking she's taking in this room, nice accommodations, by the way.
Yeah.
Not a Holiday Inn, I'll say. Beautiful room, but she's been here before, so maybe say this isn't like last time, or I have more dirt on me than last time, or I didn't have a
It
bath,
should
I
be
had to
paint.
just share, it should be paint, I agree.
If it's
I had a
significant.
shared bath down the hall, or there was no greeter last time. I don't know, I'd like.
I have to say,
Yes.
Arthur, whoever you are,
Yes.
please don't let this be a dream.
No dream secret, no dream.
That's right.
Please don't let
Yeah.
this be a dream.
Yeah, that's the
Please don't
cheapest-
let it be.
And no
that I
portrait
woke
of
up.
Dorian Gray,
Right.
No.
no
But she
portrait
woke
of
up and she was
Anna.
safe.
Yeah,
No
Yeah.
good.
please.
Well, it is a fantasy novel.
Yeah, I liked
So-
this a lot though. I even thought that like even if this wasn't the beginning, if this was the beginning, I would still
Clever.
keep. I would
Yes.
still keep reading.
Oh,
yeah.
You're
Yes.
right.
Like even I know a bunch of stuff happened before this, but I even think this snippet is
Oh,
a
yeah.
really good beginning.
Mhm.
Yes, we
Yeah.
get rid of Deacon.
You know exactly what's
Yeah,
going
this is
on.
a good
Yes.
sign.
I'm not confused by any of
No,
that.
because she
Not at
throws
all.
that little plant, like, you know,
Well
I fell into,
described,
what, you get
yeah.
everyone that falls into a painting, and I was like, oh,
Yes.
interesting,
That was
okay.
terrific.
Yeah, this,
That was
this has a huge amount of potential.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
I really enjoyed it.
yeah, it's a fun one.
Right. Is that
Yeah.
everything?
Yes.
All right, so, do we want to summarize?
Keep going.
Yeah.
Just
Yes,
keep going.
please.
It's a wonderful story. It's
Yeah.
presented well, interesting character, unusual things happening. This is not common. Okay, it's a fantasy that has unusual twists in it, and you've done a magnificent job of bringing that out, I think.
And as a final thing, I have to say, I think the writing still needs to be tightened up too, and I did
Oh,
knock out
oh,
the
that's
pages.
okay.
to take
Yeah.
a
Yes,
look.
yes, certainly,
Yeah.
certainly, but creative, very creative.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you very much for submitting. Did I say before that submission was from Texas?
Yes.
And so thanks for submitting. Thank you everyone else for watching this episode of Writers Infusion. We will see you next time. Keep writing.
Alice in Wonderland's a really good observation.
It felt like that. There's a
You're right, I
drifting,
didn't have that feeling.